Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for frame rate is provided by CacheFly at CACHEFLY.com.
This episode of Frame Rate is brought to you by Netflix. Watch thousands of TV episodes and movies on your PC, Mac, iPad, iPhone, or TV instantly, all streamed directly to you, saving you time, money, and hassle. For your free 30-day trial, go to netflix.com/twit. It's Frame Rate. Welcome to Frame Rate episode 58. I'm Tom Merritt.
Hey, I'm Brian Brushwood.
Hey, you are Brian Brushwood. Happy New Year, Brian Brushwood.
Hey, no, I'm jumping all around. I'm all over the place. Look, I'm over here. I'm on the side. I'm right in front of you. It's a new year.
You're moving. You're shaking.
2012.
You're having a great time. Also joining us today from PatrickBeja.com, ironically named Patrick Beja.
What are the odds of that?
On purpose.
Yeah, that's pretty.
Hey, guys.
What a coincidence. Patrick, host of the Movielicious podcast, among many other podcasts that you'll find online. The Movielicious relaunching soon because one of your co-hosts just had a baby.
Yes, she did. And she said, you know what, you can keep doing the show without me because I'm going to be, doing baby stuff. And we said, no, we're not going to because you're one integral part of the show. I'm losing my English. And we are starting again now on Thursday, I believe. So, yeah, that's going to be really cool.
Excellent. Looking forward to it. Big thanks to Hate Bad Design, who created our cold open video there of Who Hunters. When do we get started with our first season of Who Hunters?
Listen, I got some garbage to take out, and then I guess I'll make a call to Sci-Fi and just get them to pick it up as a show. Because,
sure.
I mean, it's Who Hunters.
A lot, because I got to be washing my hair, and with the amount of hair I have, it's going to take me a while. So if you could get on that, that'd be great.
Oh, you got it, man.
All right. Excellent.
Holy crap, wait a second. Talking about hair, this is not the Brian Brushwood I ordered. What is happening?
This is the Brian Brushwood who's currently hopped up on Dayquil and was excited that he was able to physically walk upstairs to get in the studio today. So you're lucky. You're lucky I'm not wearing a ball cap. That was the original plan. But then I look like I'm 12 years old.
What, would you look even more handsome, though, so I'll make do with that.
Would you wear a ball cap or a gimme cap?
You know what? I'm going to wear one of those the paper hats that they used to wear when they're at McDonald's.
Like they have at the Tasty Freeze.
Yes, exactly.
All right. Let's get going with our big story.
This just in, the big story.
2011 had the smallest movie audience since 1995, a 16-year low for attendance to movies. We felt it on the winter movie draft because receipts were not where we expected them for a lot of movies, but apparently it was a year-long problem. Film in the United States and Canada dropped about 3% for revenue with 2010 to $10.2 billion, according to Hollywood.com. About 1.28 billion people headed to the multiplex in 2011, a decline of roughly 4% from last year when 1.33 billion went, according to the LA Times. This is a reversal of a trend. Theater attendance has gone up every year, and that's always been one of the things we say, like, look, piracy isn't hurting the theaters too much. Attendance is going up. Revenues are going up. This year, the opposite. So I checked, and I thought, well, maybe, we're in a recession. We're in bad economic times. Let's see what the other figures look like. It looks like there was a huge uptick in spending, consumer spending, in the last 3 months of the year. And, in fact, car sales, like in a really expensive high-ticket item, was up at the end of the year.
Yeah, well, and as far as like car sales, that's the kind of thing that when your car goes out, you have to get a new car regardless. And And I thought, I may be misremembering this, but I thought that last year revenues were up, but attendance was not up very high for movies. And they attributed most of the uptick in revenues to the novelty of 3D, the fact that you had Avatar and big tentpole movies. And in fact, that's something that I noticed kind of a follow-up to this same story. Roger Ebert made a whole list of things that we can go through talking about the different reasons why nobody's going to movies nowadays.
Yeah, one of the things he said was there was no Avatar, there was no The Dark Knight, but we did have Harry Potter. That's not the same level as those movies, I guess?
Well, no,
Didn't we get Harry Potter last year too?
Exactly.
And the year before that, and the year before that.
And yeah, exactly.
The Harry Potter movies have been, for the most part, pretty flat. They've been like $300 million domestic machines year over year. So the fact that we had one last year and this year, in fact, it makes me wonder what we can expect from next year when we don't have a big Harry Potter to expect.
We don't have a big Harry Potter. We do have a Dark Knight, though.
Yeah, Dark Knight Rises. How excited are you for Dark Knight Rises?
You know, I saw the 6-minute bit in IMAX before Mission Impossible, and I liked it, and I'm excited. It didn't make me more excited, though. I expected to come out of there thinking, oh, my God, I'm so... It wasn't bad. I'm not criticizing it, but it didn't boost my excitement, if that makes any sense.
No, totally agree. There was no big surprises. There was nothing that sparked in your mind to think, to imagine even bigger events and bigger vistas than you had already expected. In fact, if anything, it kind of made the movie look a little bit smaller to me. But that's a weird complaint to have. But I'm sure I'll go see it and enjoy it, though.
Patrick, do you find yourself going to fewer movies than you used to? I mean, you're doing the Movie-licious, so you have to go to a certain amount. But,
yes.
Roger Ebert's saying that, refreshment prices are too much. The theater experience is no good because people are loud and their cell phones. And you've got the ability to watch movies in your own home on a big television, all that sort of thing. Do you think that he's right, that just all these different factors are finally coming together to keep people away?
I mean, all of this has been true for a few years at least, and movies have been making more money in the past few years, not less. I mean, in France, I read through his list, and it seems like in France we're kind of lucky, at least in the area where I live, because most of these don't seem to match with my experience at the movies. We don't have loud people, we don't have people on their phones, most of the time.
Well, the French are more polite than we are.
Yeah, absolutely, of course. Actually, funny story, when you say, excuse my French, it's actually because you're speaking more politely originally in Old England. No, that's totally made up. Anyway, so I think the only real big reason is that there wasn't any huge movie. I mean, there were a few big movies. There wasn't any huge movie that you would remember this year, or even... Most of the movies you remember from this year weren't fantastic, right? There wasn't any
there was no
memorable
Inception
series of...
Yeah. Well, and that was something we were even talking about, like not to dig on the summer movies in general, but I liked Rise of the Planet of the Apes. But I honestly, I'm surprised that I can't think of a movie that was better than Rise of the Planet of the Apes all summer long. And normally, like if it had been 2010, I mean, I could rattle off 6 or 7 different movies that were better than Rise of the Planet of the Apes. But instead, that's our sort of sleeper hit for this year. It's been a very quiet
year. I think
year.
The Descendants may be the best movie I saw all year.
Really?
And that I just saw it, 2 or 3 weeks ago, so maybe it's just top of mind. But I liked the movie. I thought it was a great story. It's got George Clooney. He's awesome. I can't think of a lot of other movies that were great. And one of the other things that Ebert points out is that the indie movie theaters that are showing these lower budget films actually did okay. They seem to be surviving, but there's fewer of those around, especially in smaller towns. And so that's where people are like, well, I'm not going to the multiplex because it's only showing Blockbuster Part 5, and I don't want to see Blockbuster Part 5.
Yeah. Do you think that... Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Patrick.
Just very quickly, so people remember exactly what happened in 2010. I did a quick search for the biggest movies of 2010. There was Toy Story 3, The Social Network, Inception, Black Swan, True Grit... The King's Speech, How to Train Your Dragon. It's really, really no surprise that this year they're making less money. And I would expect them to make even less and have less attendance than 4%. It's not that big of a dip. So,
yeah, what are the biggest movies of 2011? According to Rotten Tomatoes, well, best movies. I want highest grossing.
Yeah, unfortunately, if you look at highest grossing, you got stuff like the new Twilight movie, or the predictable Harry Potter last chapter, that kind of thing. As far as quality,
both of which also happened in 2010, by the way.
Oh yeah, that's a good point. That is a good
Twilight
point.
also, yeah.
Yeah, Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows,
yeah.
Transformers Dark Side of the Moon, Pirates of the Caribbean, Kung Fu Panda 2, Twilight Saga Breaking Dawn Part 1, Fast 5, The Hangover Part 2, number 7 grossing movie. It was panned.
Yeah,
The Smurfs, number 8.
So
they were okay. They weren't, bad movies. There were some pretty cool movies, but
sequel,
nothing.
sequel, not sequel, The Smurfs, sequel, and Rio.
Well, okay, but even then, the Smurfs, it's not the first Smurfs movie that there's been. It's a reimagining or a reboot on an established.
Yeah. Good point.
Do you think maybe that's a big thing that's contributing to a lack of? Because for the right kind of movie, I don't care. I will deal with the crowds and the overpriced popcorn and all these things to get the amazing in-your-face experience of being in a real movie theater. But most of these titles are just not inspiring to me. Do you think that it's just an off year for the products they produced, or do you think this is a sea change away from, now that you could get 80% of the movie experience at home, people don't want to be bothered to actually go out?
Patrick, what do you think? I mean, we've talked a lot on Frame Rate about the idea that the movie industry is less willing to take a risk on a new franchise in the current times and feel like sequels are a safe bet.
I honestly don't think that's the case. We've always had sequels, or at least in the past 15 or 20 years. And maybe there's something about the when you talk about the movie-going experience, the 3D is finally waning. The fad of the 3D fantastic spectacle is waning. But regarding sequels, do you guys think that I'm really, really careful when people start saying, "Oh, it was better in the good old days when we didn't have sequels." It's always been the case, and I don't think we only have sequels now. You have things like, first of all, the Marvel movies can be considered sequels, but they've only been around for a few years. You have things like, Inception, Avatar, Black Swan. There's a
King's
rise
Speech.
of independent movies, if anything else. If anything.
But we didn't have those this year.
Exactly. I think that's our point. Is we look at the top 10 now, there's not a single new property that cracked into the top 10 of highest grossing films.
Yeah.
Yeah, they just didn't get the distribution, I guess, or they just weren't at that. I think it was an off year for content, and I think it's easy for Ebert and everybody to say, "Oh, well, we have these big TVs and the ability to stream stuff at home." People have been saying
that's
for years.
That's been true for 3 or 5 years. So.
But I do think there is a groundswell of people doing this more often. There are more people who have access to, say, a Netflix or a Vudu or something like that on their game console. There's more people using iTunes and AirPlay. So even though its capability has been around for years, I think we are seeing a rise in that number of people who take advantage of it.
It doesn't mean people are going less to the movies, though. And I'm willing to bet that next year it will rise again a little bit because you have some, pretty cool
of the Dark
movies
Knight.
coming up.
It'll rise.
Not only for the Dark Knight. There are a number of movies.
But the Dark Knight rises.
It does rise.
It's right there. It's right there in the name. Let's check in on another big story.
Stop everything. It's another big story.
Now, The Hobbit is a movie coming out from Peter Jackson. Everybody's really excited about it. We've been talking about it on Frame Rate. The big trailer came out. We played it on the last episode of Frame Rate at the end of the year. But Mr. Beja, you exposed yourself to a little hate on Google Plus when you wrote trailer for The Hobbit. Meh.
Yes, I did write that.
How dare you, sir?
I feel, half ashamed, half proud. I wrote that on Google Plus and on Twitter, and oh my Lord, what had I done? It reminded me a little bit of what happened when I said that I wasn't really liking The Walking Dead after the first episode of the second season, which I think it opens a larger debate on what geeks like myself and every other geek of my generation does when someone attacks their icons, or, you know, they're so proud of their geek culture that they can't really accept that someone else would not be as excited. It's like a personal attack. If you're like, The Hobbit, yeah, I'm not so, you know, I wasn't saying it was a bad trailer or a bad teaser or even that it's going to be a bad movie. I was just saying I'm not so excited. And people jumped on me like I had, you know,
what is wrong
insulted
with you? Are
their
you
mother.
dead inside?
Yeah, exactly. So then, you know, I started saying, okay, settle down. It's just I'm not in love with it, and it's a children's book. And at that point, people started hating even more because, first of all, it's not a children's book. Second of all, if it was a children's book, it didn't mean it wouldn't be a good movie, an adult movie. And if it wasn't an adult movie, it could still be good. And if it wasn't good, then I have no soul or something like that. You know, people really didn't like me at all for saying that.
I'm scrolling through all the comments right now, and they do get rather feisty as I'm going through this on your Google Plus. It's do you have a short G+.2 that we can throw out there for you?
No, just look for Patrick Beja. I believe I'm the only one.
BEJA.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But what do you guys think? I mean, I know you guys are very excited for The Hobbit, and you were saying, I guess, last week or the week before that, you know, it's the best thing since sliced bread or cheese. I can never tell.
Cheese is French.
Okay, so bread. But yeah, so do you guys think it's wrong? Do you get
Fromage.
that irksome feeling when someone says, "Yeah, The Hobbit"?
No, I don't. I'm toying with. I'm teasing you. If you don't like The Hobbit, that's fine. I don't have the reaction of like, what is wrong with you? It's not because I think that the trailer looks bad. I think the trailer looks fantastic. It's because, you know, I've had friends who I find absolutely brilliant. I'm good friends with them who don't like Star Wars, who don't care a whit about Lord of the Rings. So to have somebody that I respect say, you know, I don't like that thing, that in itself is not enough. Now, if you had gone on to say, I'm going to write a very long post why The Hobbit is awful and no one else should ever see it, then yeah, maybe I would have had a reaction. But if you look at the trailer and say, meh, it's like, okay, well, I'm really excited about it, but that doesn't undermine my excitement. What about you, Brian?
Well, I think it's one of those things. It's like certain food tastes and choices. We don't get to decide what chemical receptors. You know, there's a genetic component that makes some people just be unable to stand broccoli. Now, I love broccoli, but other people like it tastes like butt to them, and they're like
cilantro tastes like soap to some people. They can't do anything about it.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like
Beja is obviously genetically damaged.
Exactly, it's inferior, and I think we need to breed a master race to weed out the Patrick Bejas of the world. No,
but why is it that you said meh? Is it because you don't really care about the Hobbit story? Yeah, is it because it doesn't look different enough from the Lord of the Rings, and you want them to break new ground? What is it? What is it?
Honestly, I think the Hobbit as a story, I remember reading it when I was like, I don't know, 8 or something, and I don't think it's as exciting, as epic a story as Lord of the Rings, and I don't think it's going to make, they might pretty it up as a movie, but I really doubt it's going to be a very exciting and epic movie. And I don't think the trailer or the teaser, because a lot of people, you know, made a point of noting that it's just a teaser, and oh my God, the trailer is going to be so much more awesome. I don't think the movie is going to be that exciting and enticing.
There are two things. First of all, we mentioned last week on the show that keep in mind they had to, by its very nature, not show a lot of special effects because they're still a year out from this thing being released. So instead, you see a lot of character-driven stuff, a lot of like, hey, remember Lord of the Rings? Look, there's Gandalf, that kind of thing. So that makes sense for why it's less inspiring stuff. And second of all, I take great umbrage to your suggestion that the Hobbit is any less epic than Lord of the Rings, because I read The Hobbit as an adult and then started Lord of the Rings, but Lord of the Rings was so thick and dense and so many damned songs. I just lost interest. Page after page after page of more songs about people.
The first half of the first book is Tom Bombadil Fest, basically, for Lord of the Rings, and it's basically what The Hobbit is. It's the same vein. It's the same style. It's written for children. It's a nice story. And, and it's
maybe it was written for children, but I'll tell you what. I loved reading The Hobbit. I gave up reading the books, and then I loved the movies. So now, out of everything, I would say the Hobbit movie is what I'm most excited about because it's condensed and it doesn't And we talked about this last week. I really did not dig how in Lord of the Rings, they went back and all of a sudden put all this sinister stuff on the ring that I just, that was such an innocent item as you read The Hobbit. And so I'm interested to see what they do with that with these, I guess, prequels as well.
Now,
let me ask you this then.
Go ahead.
Sorry. About the you wanted to go to read the email about Lord of
No, go
about
ahead.
the Hobbit?
Say what you're going to say.
Okay, so I wanted to switch a little bit to The Walking Dead because when I started discussing on the social networks the fact that I didn't like season 2, I sort of got the same reaction as I was saying, which is people were feeling like attacked or insulted that I didn't like that geek icon. I love the book. I just didn't like the beginning of the second season. And then people started realizing that, maybe it wasn't as great, and they started hating on it as it was getting closer to the book, and I started liking it again. But I saw that same reaction. Don't you guys think there's something there that geeks will get sort of very protective about their icons and maybe not see reality as it is and be too excited about something, sort of a distortion field about the stuff they love?
Oh, there's no doubt about it. And it's not just about geek properties. It's about everything. I remember in high school, I think what it is, I think it's directly proportional to your age and the amount of monetary resources you have. Because when I was in high school, the big debate was about which was better, the Genesis or the TurboGrafx 16. And me and all my friends, we could only buy one or the other. And once you bought a TurboGrafx, well, then, you do not want to believe you bought the inferior of the two, so you get in these huge arguments and start fighting, and you get real sensitive when someone craps on your device that you invested your time and your money into. And I think similar things happen, especially for younger folks who they've only read one epic space opera, and they don't want to believe that they picked the wrong one that's inferior to some other one. So you're going to stand up and defend it, overly defend it, in fact. And
there have actually been some good studies done into fanboy behavior that tease out the fact that people invest certain amounts of their identity into something. They say, well, you know what? When I like Apple, I am now part of this Apple universe of cool, and so now I am cool by association. And when you attack the product, you're attacking my ability to appear cool. And so I have that reaction to that. And I think that's true of things like The Walking Dead and Lord of the Rings and other stuff where we invest ourselves and our identities into these products and these stories as emblems of ourselves, and we see them as extensions of ourselves.
I could see that about maybe the Lord of the Rings and Star Wars and maybe The Hobbit, maybe. But The Walking Dead, are people really that invested into it? It seemed strange.
I think you can do it with anything. You could do it with freaking cables. I've seen it with people with like monster cables no, they're not.
No, seriously. Okay. Like The Walking Dead, I would ascribe to that the indie band phenomenon, because The Walking Dead being a small comic book that is intensely beloved and very, very unconventional, that deals with the horrific human drama of a post-apocalyptic society, it's the kind of thing that you want to evangelize and put out there. And similar to, like, let's say if you knew Tenacious D for being on their Mr. Show spots in 1999, before they had an album, before anyone knew who they were. Now all of a sudden there's a reincarnation of it that's very, very big, and you want to defend them, and you're dealing with this situation like, well, it's not mine anymore. I have to give it out to the world, and I think you're going to see a lot of sensitivity from people about that property. But like, weirdly, I found myself divorcing myself emotionally from The Walking Dead TV show and letting it be its own thing that I may or may not like going into the second half of the second season, but meanwhile still very intensely loving the comic book for that very personal, quote unquote relationship that I felt like I had with it.
And there's also the idea that I feel superior because I know about this thing that other people don't know about. Then you get the other issue of, I liked them before they sold out. I liked them before they were popular. You only like them because they're popular. That's sort of a separate side issue to all of this.
Yeah, I think.
Ember Mike points out that you're going to see the same thing happening again with World War Z, because right now only people who read the book know the amazing take on zombies that Max Brooks did, but it's going to come out as a movie, and it's going to be something that maybe your uncle or your aunt or your older cousin who's a jerk will have opinions about.
But you could still have your superiority preserved because you can like the book, which is going to be different from the movie.
Right.
But you guys are talking about I liked them before they were cool.
Yeah, that's a different thing.
Here, yeah, with The Walking Dead, I was saying, actually, I was the one saying the book is superior and the movie is just an average, I'm sorry, the TV show at that point, at the very beginning of season 2, was just an average, zombie flick that you could see anywhere else. And I was bemoaning the fact that they lost what made the book special, what made the book not about zombies, but about the people.
Right.
And everyone who was watching it was saying, shut up, you suck.
Well, those are just trolls, because we were saying the same thing here on Frame Rate. We were, as you were saying, which is, season 2 is disappointing. It's not as good, and why is that? But I think what happens is, again, you tie up your identity in Walking Dead, and you say, I'm cool because I know about Walking Dead, and I'm excited about this television show, and then Patrick Beja comes along and disses it. You're now attacking me, and so I react. Why are you attacking me? Yeah. I want you to love it so much that it gets really popular, and then I can say it's not cool anymore, but not before.
Right.
Yeah.
We can all agree that the end of season 2 redeemed it, though, right?
I think so. Brian, yeah?
Okay.
Oh, yeah, no. The end of season 2 was, or the end of or I guess the mid-season break or whatever. I mean, I think we could say a couple of things. Yes. We can all agree that it was a rocky start to season 2, but that we're all on board going into the break. Does anyone disagree with that?
No.
Nope.
Now, we have an email from an insider. Brian, do you want to read this?
Yeah. He asked to only be identified by his pseudonym here, and he promised to send us an actual photo of some of the stuff they put together. He wasn't able to get it in time for this episode, but he says, hey, just a bit of background on why Lord of the Rings was made before The Hobbit, in case you didn't know. And if you remember last week, we were talking about how, some people were saying like, they're trying to make The Hobbit into an epic, that kind of thing. And we were talking about what's weird about doing The Hobbit after Lord of the Rings. He says the plan was to make The Hobbit first. At that time, Miramax was the studio behind the films. We actually started some design work for The Hobbit. Miramax soon found out that while they had the international rights to The Hobbit, they did not have the U.S. rights. So if made, they would not be able to release in the U.S. They did own the worldwide rights to Lord of the Rings, though, so the decision was made to can The Hobbit and make Lord of the Rings instead. Peter Jackson's plan was to make 3 3-hour films. Miramax said yes, but later changed it to 3 2-hour films. Peter said okay. Miramax later changed it to 2 3-hour films. Peter said okay. And then Miramax said they wanted to make just a single 3-hour film. At that point, Peter said no. My impression is that Miramax did not just want to make the films, too much money maybe, but didn't want to scrap the project. Instead, kept changing what they would do until Peter finally said no. Miramax then put the film into turnaround and gave Peter 2 weeks to find a new backer. We shot pics of what we had, did some digital matte paintings, and put together a large format brochure to try and sell the project. Though through his connections at New Line, Peter was able to get a deal there, and the rest is history. I still have one of those brochures, and we'll shoot pics of it one day. I'll send you those pics when I've done that. Love the show. Dude, how great would it be to get a glimpse of that brochure before Lord of the Rings ever even happened?
Yeah, absolutely want to see that brochure if you can get it to us, and we appreciate his confiding in us. Interesting look into the background of what we knew was a really difficult negotiation. Let's move on to yet another big story. It's got dancing girls.
Tuck in your bootstraps. It's yet another big story.
Honored.
And this one is a sad one. The man, Bob Anderson, who represented Britain in fencing at the 1952 Olympics, probably better known to folks in our audience as the person who staged the lightsaber fights in Star Wars and From Russia with Love, passed away at the age of 89. Very sad.
Yeah, these are the guys that made it's really wild to feel the personal connection, with us as kids watching these movies, and to know you don't think of it when you're a kid because it's Luke Skywalker and Darth Vader, hitting each other with swords. But you think about like somebody crafted that, somebody thought it through, and that's what became indelibly seared into your, to your consciousness. It's amazing to me.
Yeah, and it was actually a secret for many years that Anderson had staged the fights. When we say staged, he's the one who choreographed them so that they look as fantastic as they do. And Anderson got the credit finally in a 1983 interview with Starlog magazine. So Robert James Gilbert Anderson, born in Hampshire in 1922, passed away at the age of 89.
We got a ton of TV and movie stories to go through, so we should probably take a moment and thank the folks who make Frame Rate possible.
I was just about to say the same thing. It's like you read my rundown.
You know what it was I. Okay, I read your rundown. Go ahead.
Yes.
But you called me out. You called out my segue, Tom.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I violated the first rule of segues.
He's just the master of segues. He just can't stand it when other people create good segues. He has to sabotage them.
You busted me, and now you busted me. Anyway, thanks to Netflix, netflix.com/twit. If you want to watch streaming videos of TV shows, movies, or coming soon, original TV shows. We're going to talk about that in a minute. You can get it all for free for 30 days. Try it out. Netflix.com/twit. You can watch them on your television. You can watch them on your Xbox, your PS3, your Wii, or your Roku box, all kinds of other streaming boxes, Apple TV. You watch them on your tablets, on your phones, your laptops. Watch movies, unlimited amounts, streaming over the internet. $7.99 a month. Check it out. Netflix.com/twit. You don't have to pay anything, though, for the first month. 30-day free trial. And that URL will work for anyone if you want to tell someone else about it. And we thank it for their support of Frame Rate. Our next segment is going to be about streaming services. If you're familiar with the show, we talked about this last couple episodes. We're shaking it up. So we're going to do a segment about streaming services. We're going to do a segment about set-top box stuff, and then things to watch on the web. But the streaming services, we don't have a name for it except to call it Film Fell. For now. Because what do you stream? You stream a lot of films, except not our first story. Lilyhammer is going to debut on Netflix in Latin America, Canada, and the United States starting February 6th. It is a show starring Steven Van Zandt. You might know him from The Sopranos. He's also a guitarist in the E Street Band. And it's about a mobster who has to leave the country, chooses to go to Lillehammer, Norway, because he liked the Olympics when they took place there. Calls it Lilyhammer, hence the name of the show. Let's watch a little bit of the trailer here.
I'm gonna give you the sucker. But I got some demands. I'm thinking Lilyhammer.
You give us Aldo DeLucci, and we'll send you to the goddamn North Pole. Why the f*** do you want to go there?
Didn't you see the Olympics in '94? Clean air, fresh white snow, gorgeous broads. It was beautiful.
You must be the new neighbor?
Giovanni Hankinson. Oh, you're in the postal service.
I'm chief of police.
Okay. You got me living in the projects next to the chief of police, driving a sewing machine. I gave you Aldo DeLucci. What the are you doing out here by yourself?
So what? The trailer goes on. He plays with the sheep.
I had no idea that that's what this was about. I'm so glad I watched this because when I was a kid, we moved from Texas to Norway for 2 years. Did I ever tell you about that?
No.
Oh yeah, I lived in Stavanger, Norway. So this was like I sort of lived this. This is amazing. I'm so gonna watch this. I was originally interested just because it's the first experiment in a Netflix exclusive, but the fact that it. I'm watching this. I'm recognizing it's bringing back all these memories. I'm so going to watch this. This is awesome.
Now, this was produced for a Norway television station or television network, but in conjunction with Netflix. So in the Netflix regions that I mentioned, U.S., Canada, Latin America, on February 6th, all 8 episodes will go up at once. We were wondering how they were going to do this, whether they're going to roll it out, whether there'd be a release time. No, February 6th, they're up. Watch them all.
Oh, it's fantastic. I'm so there.
Do you think that's the right strategy, Patrick?
Sure. I mean, people want to... I'm saying sure, it's my first reaction. Actually, I don't know that they would at least split them in 4 and 4 1 month and then 4 the next. I don't know. I guess they saw how it was best to do it and got their calculators out and thought, yeah, let's just get everything out at once. I guess they can tout it forever. Once people have, a certain number of people have tried it in February, then they can go on in March and say, come and watch the whole season now. if you haven't watched it yet, to other people. So yeah, it's really a different model. I guess it makes sense for them.
Also, Netflix has confirmed that House of Cards will come in late 2012. We've speculated about when it would release, but Netflix is saying no, it's coming late 2012, and Arrested Development will start in 2013. So we're going to have a rolling release of originals here.
I mean, even if they did string them out one a week, it would still only be 2 months, right? So just give everything at once. It's going to be the same thing anyway.
Yeah, why frustrate people into some unnatural reason of waiting if you don't care about building up simultaneous ratings? That's the only reason you want to do that, because the old model was, well, we got to have as many people watch at once so we can have a Nielsen number so we can go sell ads. Netflix doesn't care about that. All they care about is that somebody says, hey, I want to pay Netflix every month because they have great stuff, including this show, and if I want to watch this show, I want to watch them all at once.
Now think about
and
this.
Shows are also, sorry Brian, just to finish this tiny sentence, shows are also often so much better when you watch a bunch of them at once. So maybe they're counting on that too.
You stole my thought. That's exactly what I was going to say.
I knew it.
Because I'm telling you, that might be the genius thing. Because how many shows do you love when you watch them back after back after back?
Right.
But then when you go to week to week, you're like, I can't be bothered to remember what happened last season for this kind of thing. But yeah, no, I think this is a way to enhance the experience to the customer that costs them nothing. It just changes the model and makes it a superior experience for the folks at home. I think this is great.
Now, our next story is sort of a streaming experience. Film On, which has gotten in a lot of trouble for streaming live over-the-air broadcasts onto the internet without coming to a formal agreement with some of the stations that they stream, is going to put out a tuner that will apparently connect to devices like Windows and Mac computers, as well as iOS and Android devices, I guess by USB or whatever proprietary interface it has, like an iOS, to provide over-the-air broadcasts into your iPhone, into your laptop. Now, there's plenty of tuners out there that do this for laptops, but the idea of a little plug-in device that would go onto an iPhone and suddenly you can get HD broadcast from digital over the air, that's pretty compelling.
I can't decide how I feel about this, because on the one hand, I think, as you know, I say all the time that convenience trumps fidelity. And so the convenience of just going to ESPN and clicking live stream or whatever, or going to a Justin.tv feed you would think trump the fidelity of it being a high-def thing. But since it's just a little gizmo that you attach, and then all of a sudden you get the incredible bandwidth of high-definition over-the-air broadcasts, to where maybe that's better than trying to watch, waiting for buffering and some kind of slow 3G connection. So I can't decide. What's your take on this? You think this is going to be a hit or no, Patrick?
Well, to be honest, I don't have a TV, so I really don't care about these kinds of things. I'm also not very much into sports, and from what I understand, it's the one big holdout that is getting you guys to watch TV itself. So I really don't care one way or another.
Well, you say you watch TV shows, you just don't watch live television, is what you're saying.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Sorry, I mean, I don't have the physical object of a TV. Whenever I watch TV shows.
So you don't care about watching live television on your phone, is what you're saying?
I couldn't care less. No.
Okay. Now, for those of you who are interested, there is a battery in the tuner that will help extend the life of your phone's battery. And it's going to be expensive, $95.95 for the device when it's released in February. However, if you subscribe to Film On's annual $150 subscription plan, you'll get it for free. You just have to, hope that turns out to be worth it and Film On stays around for a year.
I'm super curious. I literally have no opinion one way or the other. I know this is not the kind of thing I would bother to use, but I can't speak to whether or not it'll be a success or not, because I'm as curious as anyone else to watch this thing happen.
I'm sure some people are going to have a use for it, though. Seems pretty obvious.
Well, it turns your phone into a television in the most classic sense. Not a big deal here. Just wanted to note that China Central TV and a handful of local stations will be operating a new 3D channel that will launch within a few weeks. So China gets its first 3D TV. It'll transmit 4.5 hours of free over-the-air 3D content every day, which can be picked up by anyone with a high-def set-top box and a 3D TV.
Are those glasses on the article like the real ones, the red?
No.
Cool. Okay.
Airtight app is more interesting to me. It turns your Google television into an AirPlay receiver. It's an app for the Android market and for Google TV devices that allows them to act as a receiver for Apple AirPlay. So if you've got an iPhone or an iPad, you could send your AirPlay signal to the Google TV.
I think there needs to be more of this cross-pollination and this ability to, and I guess this is the right thing to do at first, is to have a gizmo that allows one thing to send something to another. But, I mean, 5 years from now, is this the kind of thing that's even going to be an issue? I mean, I would imagine 5 years from now, pretty much video on any device will be able to stream to another device super simply, right?
Well, yes and no. I mean, this is a proprietary Apple thing, so they've cracked something. They'll either get sued or Apple will change how AirPlay works to block it, is my guess. But it's in development right now, and it works. For at least for video and photos. It doesn't work for music. That's being looked into. And it doesn't work for anything protected by DRM. So if you're buying stuff from the iTunes television, from the iTunes store on television, that's not going to stream. But it is only 99 cents. So it's a good first step.
Yeah, first steps are good.
I like first steps.
Who doesn't?
Harrison Ford has officially joined Ender's Game. What?
Yeah, I stuck this actually during the show. Somebody in the chat room just made me hip to this, and I threw it in Film Found, but then I realized that Film Found was being rejiggered, and I was like, crap, do we get to do anything with this? How long have you guys been paying attention to the saga of trying to make Ender's Game into a movie? Have you guys been following this at all?
We've talked about it on Frame Rate a bit. Yeah.
No, like specifically, I'm thinking back. I remember when I worked my day job at Dell, working in a cubicle in 1998. I remember he had briefly posted the entire script for a movie treatment of Ender's Game, and the fans had a big outroar. It was amazing to watch at the time. So there's some part of me that, despite everything we've heard so far, there's some part of me that doesn't believe it. But seeing Harrison Ford officially cast in Ender's Game is the visceral sucker punch that all of a sudden I'm like, holy crap, it's going to happen. And all of a sudden I'm scared, because is this going to be a Lord of the Rings thing where it takes a great story and brings it to the masses? Or is this going to be, one of any other number of books that have been turned into movies that were forgettable and went nowhere, and you were kind of embarrassed to say how much you love the book because the movie sucks so bad?
Harrison Ford will play the commander of training for the International Fleet heading the Academy. If you remember that character, I think he's perfect for it.
Absolutely.
It doesn't bother me. It doesn't frighten me, not in the least.
All right.
Frighten you that you got a really good, iconic science fiction star to be in the movie. That seems like a good thing.
Oh, no. I think Harrison Ford being in it there is great. I'm just talking about whether or not the movie will be any good is what I'm worried about. And not, because I don't know anything about who's directing it or whether or not it's, I don't know. It's like, for example, Kuhan really wore his emotions on his sleeve about the Green Lantern movie. And then the Green Lantern movie was universally panned as being absolutely terrible. And for a property that Kuhan so clearly loved, I got to imagine it's devastating to have a movie out that represents your love for this property, and it just totally sucks. And that's a little bit what I'm worried about and feeling now that it is really hitting me that the Ender's Game movie is definitely being made.
Oh yeah, so your problem is not with Harrison Ford. Your problem is with the movie being made.
Yes,
because it scares you that it might not be good.
Exactly.
Yeah, we should never make anything because it might not be good.
Kuan in the chat room says he cried when he watched the Green Lantern movie.
Yeah, that's a good point. All right, let's move on to Tube Tops. Now this works still because this is all about our set-top box stuff. Now with that Google TV probably should have been in here, but Boxy is releasing its last software update for PCs. So if you're using Boxy on your PC to stream your television and watch your television, as Avner said when he was on Frame Rate earlier last year, they are doing one more update, but this will be the last one. So version 1.5 will include better file support, new on-screen display, search functionality, WebKit-based browser, etc. It will run on Windows XP, Windows Vista, Windows 7, OS X 10.6 and higher, Ubuntu 11.1, and available at Boxy.tv through the end of January.
I'll tell you what, I would be upset that this is the end of support if Boxy weren't so dang cheap. I mean, those units are so cheap, so easy to throw on a television that, and it's so clear that what they're trying to do is bring, the web-based content is with a simple interface to the living room. So I don't see why they should spend a bunch of time and effort investing in PCs.
And they are releasing an open source version of the software. Even though Boxy won't continue to develop and support it, it can fork off on its own and become its own thing.
Absolutely.
You ever played around with Boxy, Patrick?
No, I never really had. I'm not a home theater freak, and my place is so tiny that I actually have. My Boxy is basically my computer with my big Dell monitor.
Well, that's what we're saying. With this would have been the thing would have been perfect for you. Not buying a box, but downloading the Boxy software to your PC. But never attracted you, huh?
No. Honestly, I'm content with just browsing my files and putting my DVDs and Blu-rays in my drive.
DVDs. You use physical media.
It's adorable. Look at you.
How French.
We're 5 years in the past here.
All right, let's one more tube top story. Tranquil PC, which is actually in the UK, has come out with one of the rare items that we talk about wanting a lot, which is a home theater sized media PC.
It's gorgeous.
Yeah,
this thing is gorgeous.
The MMC 12 measures just 1.5 inches thick, so it can slide into just about any AV rack. It's going to run for 649 pounds. So for the U.S., that's right around $1,000. Core i3 processor, 4 gigs of DDR3 RAM, plus another open RAM slot if you want to add your own.
You're burying the lead.
80 gigabyte MSATA hard drive. Kind of small.
That's fine. That's
You're
fine,
just going to be streaming stuff, I guess, with this thing.
Exactly.
CD DVD burner for people like Patrick who want to, put their DVDs in there. Windows 7 Home Premium HDMI port, also a couple of USB 3.0 ports. So this thing isn't jacked up with specs, but it's also not crazy expensive either.
But again, you buried the lead. You didn't even mention the lead. Fanless. There's no fans in this thing. This thing is a fully functioning PC that has no fans, so you don't have to worry about the sound coming out of your AV rack.
Right, so it's not going to be like the Xbox propeller going off over there. That makes it sound like your home entertainment center is about to lift off.
Yes, absolutely.
All right, let's move on to Interferon. Speaking of Harrison Ford, Cory Doctorow had a post up on Boing Boing from David Weinberger, a video from Stu TV, that's STOO TV, showing the first 13 minutes of Raiders of the Lost Ark paired with identical shots from 30 other adventure movies that had been made between 1919 and 1973. So this is an example. Now, it's not meant to show that Spielberg ripped things off, but that when Spielberg and Lucas imagined Raiders of the Lost Ark, they were making it as an homage to this earlier type of adventure movie.
Yeah, there are some of these shots that I sort of roll my eyes and like, well, that's a little bit forced, because you can see they slow down certain things, or they enhance it, or they add
the older version. Yeah,
exactly. But then there are other things that are so specific, or like they had to have been influenced by that had to exist in their heads. But I don't. This is part of what kills me about our restrictive copyright culture. When are we worse off because Raiders was such a homage to all of these different movies? It's like, no, we got something new and wonderful and delightful because of the beginning of this remix culture of taking old ideas and mashing them up and creating something new.
And Rabbit Badger points out you could do the same with Star Wars, with the dogfight footage, with a lot of the C-3PO and R2-D2 scenes that are taken right out of Kurosawa movies. There was a lot of homage in that as well.
Yeah. What's funny is I sat down to watch this, and it's very compelling. At the very beginning, it really is. Every shot. And it just sort of is a testament to the fact that everything's been done before. But after about 5 minutes, I found myself totally ignoring the other side and just watching Raiders again.
Nice.
The Lost Ark is such a good movie.
I mean, okay, I agree with everything you're saying, Brian, but it's also taken from 30 different movies. I mean, it feels to me like this is the kind of thing where it's the what is it, 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon? You're like, the first time you see it, you're like, oh my God, this is so, this person is connected to Kevin Bacon? It's incredible. And then everyone is. So my point is, you could probably do this if you took enough movies with any movie, any time ever. and it would look sort of compelling. And so I'm not that impressed by this, but it's fun. But you know,
all right, that's a challenge to the frame rate audience. What movie? Roadhouse.
There you go.
Take first 6 minutes of Roadhouse and find scenes from previous movies that mimic them.
I like the fact that you picked Roadhouse because that guarantees nobody will actually bother to do it.
Because nobody wants to watch Roadhouse.
I agree 100%, Patrick, that there really are. There's only so many different places that you could stick a camera. There's only so many different ways to dress up your character. But again, I don't mean this in any kind of bad way. It's true. There's nothing new under the sun. I mean, you know, you're talking to somebody who makes his living doing a magic show, touring across the nation. Half the stuff I'm doing was invented 200, 300 years ago, but everybody perceives it as fresh and see. Get out of here. All right, I'm done. That's all I have to say.
By the way, for a lot of authors went public domain on January 1st because so many years after their death law kicks in. So Virginia Woolf, for instance, all her works.
No kidding.
Public
How
domain.
about that?
Yeah, here in the U.S.
Now we'll see Virginia Woolf and the Zombies coming out any minute now.
Another thing you can find online to watch is the making of The Hobbit. The 5th episode is now out. We've talked about these before. They're all really well-produced looks behind the scenes. This one's about the logistics of the production. So there's a lot about how they get to the places where they're shooting, what kinds of trucks they use, and how far they have to go, and all of the coordination that's done. And not only can you notice that Peter Jackson has put on a little bit of weight since episode number 1 of this behind the scenes, but also they are rebuilding Hobbiton in exactly the same location on the same ranch. The guy that owned the property had been doing Hobbiton tours, but Hobbiton was gone after Lord of the Rings. It was made of polystyrene. It was meant to be temporary, and they pretty much ripped it away. When they're rebuilding it for the movie, they are rebuilding it out of wood and brick.
Oh, that's great.
So that it will stay after they leave.
That's wonderful. That is absolutely delightful. I love that. That's awesome. It's the reverse of movie magic. Movie magic is like it looks good on the screen, and you get there, and you're like, oh. But this is going to be all of a sudden. This makes me want to go down to New Zealand just to see Hobbiton.
I know, exactly. You can go to the north of the North Island. Of course, Patrick hates this, right? Because it's just more.
You know, I watched it, and you know what I thought?
What?
Meh. No, I'm kidding.
I knew that was
I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm baiting trolls. It's not true.
All right, we don't have too many.
I didn't watch it.
We don't have too many other times to check in on the Frame Rate NSFW show Winter Movie Draft.
It's over.
Let me tell you, Alvin and the Chipmunks came through, and I'm running away with this thing now.
You are, dude. You're so far, and as I've been saying, but however, I'm happy enough with second place, even though everyone makes fun of me every time we go. I've only had red and blue ribbons the entire history of the movie draft, so I'm okay with second place. Congratulations, Tom. You did great.
Well, and my strategy paid off, which was Breaking Dawn at any price. And then one of the Hit Kids movies, and then fill in the gaps with anything else to just pad it out. I was worried that I didn't get enough other things to pad it out with Tintin, and right. Tintin has been pretty crappy, 50 million. But that's enough to put me up on top. Now, what's really more interesting to me in chat realm, Isom Dyson 5 is the winner right now.
Ty, I had expected, you would think that there's only so many different ways to combine the movies.
And he only has one of my movies.
No kidding.
He's got Twilight Saga, Breaking Dawn, which I had, and all the people in the top stats have to have that. But then he has Jack and Jill, Puss in Boots, and Paranormal Activity 3.
That's awesome. It's awesome to know how wide open and fair the game is. But I'm glad we did this to keep the game alive during the winter months. And congratulations to you, Tom. It was a well-earned victory. You didn't trick. You didn't get anything easy handed to you the way Sarah did during the summer.
Oh, no, that's not fair. She did. I based my strategy off Sarah.
Okay, but Sarah, like, you guys giving her that Harry Potter movie for $30 was insane. You handed her the entire game with that, and I would have stopped it if I could, but I was out of money. But you did a really good job. You totally earned your victory.
Now, until we do the summer movie draft, we'll fill this space on the show with movies that are premiering this week, because the movie draft is a way to talk about what's coming out every week. Wired's got a great article up. Sadly, they put it up as a slideshow, so it's kind of a pain to click through.
Oh, my God. And you have to watch a advertisement between every single one of the... Like, you're
not if you run no script, you don't.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, I know for me, I'm sitting here, I'm going to the website so I can look at movie advertisements, and they're making me watch their advertisements between each of the movie advertisements, so that was a little bit rough.
Well, let's just go through let's go through this real quick, and I just want yay, nay, or wait a minute. What's the Movielicious rating?
Woot, lame, or meh.
Woot, lame, or meh on what you expect from these movies as an homage or a ripoff of the Movielicious. We start with Ghost Rider Spirit of Vengeance coming out on February 17th.
Meh.
Ghost Rider, the first one, was one of the worst movies in the world, and for some reason this one I'm sort of, yeah, why not?
I'm totally meh on it. Tim and Eric's $1 billion movie coming out March 2nd. Two smarmy idiots plowed through $1 billion making a Hollywood blockbuster.
No, super woot. Super woot. Tim and Eric are freaking hilarious, and you got to be in the right frame of mind to enjoy them. But I'm so excited for this movie.
No idea who they are. But, yeah.
You'll have to
reviews. Woot.
John Carter from Mars coming out March 9th. Of course, this is the guy from Friday Night Lights as a Civil War veteran who does battle on the wounded planet of Mars.
Dude, mega woots.
Based on Edgar Rice Burroughs. I'm burying the lead.
Everything I've seen from this has me super excited. I really enjoyed reading one of the Edgar Rice Burroughs books. In fact, I might spend some Audible credits and go listen to a bunch more of the Edgar Rice Burroughs stuff.
Cool. Patrick?
You had me at Tim Riggins.
March 23rd, The Hunger Games. Katniss Everdeen and all of its teen angst.
Now, as somebody who's read all three of the books, the books were meh, so by default, I'm going to be meh. Except for I want very badly to be surprised and love the movies because I think there's an interesting world that they've put together. I'd love to be pleasantly surprised by it. Plus, inspired casting with what's his name as Woody Harrelson as Haymitch. I think he'll be amazing.
I'm going to say woot too, Patrick.
This is like Battle Royale meets Twilight or something like that?
Yeah, maybe.
I don't know.
No vampires.
That way, it doesn't sound nearly as good.
I think it's going to be awesome. I'm looking forward to it. I like the world they created. I like post-apocalyptic stuff. I'm a sucker for that. April 13th, Joss Whedon's Cabin in the Woods, co-wrote and directed. Wait a minute. No, co-writer director Joss Whedon. It's a Joss Whedon, right? It's got to be a woot.
I guess,
right?
Yeah, by default. I know nothing about it, but I heard you say the words Joss Whedon.
Innocent vacationers chill out at an isolated shack before all supernatural hell breaks out.
I look forward to loving the movie and watching it make $0.
May 4th, The Avengers.
Yes, I also look forward to that one making $0 because I just assume since it's Joss Whedon, that means I'm going to love it and it'll be canceled instantly.
It's another Joss Whedon. Patrick, I'm sorry. I forgot. I cut you off before you made your last Joss Whedon. So you get a Joss Whedon double play here. The Avengers and Cabin in the Woods.
I get two Josses. I'm really looking forward to see Joss Whedon take on the horror movie genre because he's like this post-pop culture magician that, uses what you expect to see from a certain type of movie or a certain genre and plays with your mind and plays tricks on you. So for Cabin in the Wood, fantastic. The Avengers, I'll go watch it, but I'm not setting my expectations too high.
May 11th, it wouldn't be humanity and planet Earth without a vampire movie. This one's got Johnny Depp. Dark Shadows, an 18th century vampire, wakes up in 1972 New England and sinks his teeth into the job at hand.
Meh.
Johnny Depp, though, right? No?
Yeah, so was those pirate movies. Were also Johnny Depp. So, meh.
Patrick?
Now, if that vampire was Jack Sparrow, we would be talking.
Yes.
Moonrise Kingdom, a Wes Anderson movie. Band of quirky characters philosophically chasing their figurative tails. Well, that's every Wes Anderson movie. We actually don't have a lot of details about this.
You said the words Wes Anderson, which gets an automatic what?
Patrick, Wes Anderson fan?
No, not really.
All right.
Oh my God! I will punch you when I
battle
go to
now.
France.
And that is exactly why I'm saying that. I want to get you to come to France, not to punch me. But,
Fantastic Mr. Fox is so legendarily
I haven't
awesome.
seen it.
Oh my God! You got to watch Fantastic Mr. Fox.
So there's also Snow White and the Huntsman, Prometheus, The Hobbit, of course, lots of other movies. Those take us up to
Don't you want to
June-
know what I
June
think
1st.
of The Hobbit?
What do you think of The Hobbit, Patrick?
No, never mind. Never mind. Keep going.
Let's move on to what we're watching.
What we're watching.
Brian, you've been sick. What have you been watching?
Well, I don't know what it is about being sick, but it makes me want to watch things that I've already seen before. Look, I even have my moist towelettes here.
Love Actually?
So to be honest, I'm way stoked about The Legend of Korra coming out soon. So I'm watching all the old Avatar: The Last Airbenders. They're all on Netflix instant streaming, and it is so awesome. The choreography, the fight scenes, the humor, the writing, the style, it's absolutely gorgeous. I love it. It's a world that I want to experience in my head. I'm still so upset that the movie got such poor reviews. I still have never seen the movie. I guess you could watch the movie if you wanted. But definitely check out Avatar: The Last Airbender. And then I started watching The Machinist again, which is, I think, one of the most underappreciated movies in the last decade. An amazing performance from Christian Bale, who, I mean, if anybody commits, I mean, he weighs literally 110 pounds, and he's horrifying to look at. And so when they say he put on 200 pounds for the role of Batman, it was mainly because he was getting back to a healthy weight and then moving forward to getting, to getting all muscly. And also I saw A Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, which I thought was pretty good.
The U.S. Version of it, right?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes, correct.
All right. Patrick Beja, what have you been watching?
So I've been watching The Good Wife, which I discovered recently. I don't know if you know that show. It was surprisingly enjoyable. And it's also nice because they always win in the end. So that's always nice.
You're getting older.
Probably, yeah. I'm really looking forward to Homeland and American Horror Story, which I'm hearing fantastic things about. So I'm really waiting for those to get here. And I've watched Mission Impossible 4, which I was surprised was really good.
Yeah, I wasn't terribly surprised because the Mission Impossible series has been pretty good. But yeah, it wasn't JJ directing this time. He was executive producer. And it carried through. They did a great job with it. One of the few Tom Cruise movies that I get really excited to go see.
We kind of talked about this last week, but you didn't feel like it fell off after the Dubai thing? Like that whole third act, I thought it was the weakest of the three.
I didn't feel like it fell off. You're right. Nothing matched the Dubai scenes.
It was.
I mean, those were insane. Those were crazy. But so yeah, it fell off in that respect, but not so much that I didn't enjoy the rest of the movie.
And you know what I really enjoyed? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No. Go ahead, Patrick.
I really enjoyed the fact that it didn't take itself seriously. There were a number of things that I'm not going to spoil for the listeners if they haven't seen it yet, but a number of things where I was like making joke on themselves, which just took it to the point where I really enjoyed it, as opposed to just an average action movie, a well-done action movie.
Well, I liked that they didn't always land perfectly in the back seat of the car they were jumping into. You know, they built in some imperfections into all of this superhero-ish stuff that they were doing.
Well, even though they're succeeding, they're messing up from beginning to end. Yeah. Everything they're trying is unsuccessful ultimately. So
how do you watch your television shows? Now, you said you don't have a TV. You watch everything online?
Yeah. Well, DVDs, as I was saying, or online. Or there are, VOD services here too. Actually, we premiered some VOD services through ADSL. So
nice. All right.
Yeah.
I've been watching Friday Night Lights, which Scott Johnson actually gave me the first 2 seasons on DVDs. So I started watching those over the break. But they have all 5 seasons on Netflix, so it just kept going once we were done with the DVDs. That was almost upsetting to watch season 1. It was so much like high school for me.
Oh, wow.
That I just
actual high school experience.
It was uncomfortable. It reminded me of frustrations that I had forgotten about for years. They did such a good job of capturing that.
Bullies and just said like, "How you like me now? Watch Texas today."
there were the coaches. So well played. I have some of my best friends from high school are all coaches at Greenville High School. And I was seeing them in so many of the different characters, so many of the different situations, the way they are now. It had me looking up the Greenville High School Booster Club on my on my iPad while I was watching. Just fantastic. Season 2 went way down, kind of hard to plow through, but it was okay. Then it got cut off by the writer's strike, so they didn't even finish the season. They start season 3 by just jumping ahead on a bunch of storylines without ever explaining what, they just kind of briefly explain what happened. And I'm almost through season 3, which is much better. And I'm told seasons 4 and 5 are even better than season 3. So I'm looking forward to continuing on. But the other weird thing about Friday Night Lights, Brian, that you'll appreciate, it's shot in Austin.
Yes.
So there are definitely out-of-body experiences sometimes when they're supposed to be in the fictional town of Dillon, Texas. And I'm like, they're at Fran's on South Congress. Like, I see the sign out the window, or they're supposed to be on a balcony at a hotel in Dallas, and it's clearly the Austin skyline.
That's the way it was when I was watching Predators. Of course, Robert Rodriguez being here in Austin. It's like they're on an alien planet, and then all of a sudden I'm like, that's Pedernales Falls State Park. Miles from my house. What the hell?
You live near an alien planet.
Yeah.
Have you not seen Friday Night Lights, Brian?
I have not, and it's just because maybe it's the nerd thing that I feel like I'm allergic to anything about football, but I hear amazing things about it.
I explained this to a friend of mine. It's about football the way Star Trek is about spaceships. So football is an essential part of the story, but football isn't the story.
Yeah, I think I suspect I'll just get mad though. Like I have, Texas is crazy for their high school football, and I watched friends who will never walk right again and get destroyed. People who had fractures on their arms and knees that were blown out, that were told if they went and saw a doctor, they would be cut from the first string because they needed them to play.
Well, this show takes that into account. This show has those stories.
Yeah, see, and I nothing about that sounds like an experience I want to experience again. I mean, that's all stuff like, wow, I lived in that city in Texas and saw that happen firsthand. And plus, I ran cross country, and we were regarded as like a lesser people because we weren't playing football.
That's what I mean about this show being uncomfortable, because it really captures that. But for some reason, I love it, because even though it does bring up those frustrations and those old memories, they do it so well, and the stories are so compelling.
It's really...
Oh, go ahead, Patrick. Go ahead, Patrick.
It's really interesting to hear you guys talk about it, because me, being from France, where we never do anything about American football, which is the way we call it here, and really not being super interested about some, faraway town in Texas, this show, honestly, is one of the most wonderful experiences I've had in entertainment, period. It's amazing. It's really, really good. And by the end of the 5th season, I didn't want it to end. It's as good up there as The Wire is. It's one of those shows where people tell you, watch it, and you're like, I don't want to. And when you finally do, you love it so much, and you understand, and you're a convert, and you're like, you want to tell people to watch it too. And they will tell you, but I don't want to because of this and that, and you're hating them for it.
Forget it's about football. Forget it's about... I'm not trying to convince you to watch it, actually, but I'm just saying, forget it's about football. Forget it's about Texas. If you like shows about compelling, realistic characters that are acted in a way that's entirely believable and natural, and a storyline that's just going to make you tear up and cheer for characters and get invested, then it's a show you're going to want to watch.
And again, that's consistent with everything I heard. I hear it's an amazing show, and maybe I will at some point.
All right, let's move on to feedback.
Now it's time for feedback with Brian and Tom on Frame Rate. Oh, yeah.
We're going to blaze through this because we're running a little long, and it's like 5 in the morning for Patrick Beja.
Thank you very much, Patrick.
But Jason wrote in with some frustrations about Stephen Moffat's Sherlock, which started airing on BBC One. But since Jason lives in Dallas, he can't legally pay anyone any amount of money to watch it. And so he expressed his frustrations that, you know what, he's like, forget it. I'm going to break the law. And we're not advocating that that's what you do, but he's one of those people who's like, give me an avenue to give you money, and I will give you money. He's so excited about your product and how awesome it is, he doesn't want to wait.
I hesitate to even call this, I wish there was a different word, because when you say piracy, it connotes that I want this object, but I don't feel like paying for it, so I'm going to go ahead and just do this other thing. But that's not the case. There's an entire gray market of people who want very badly the intellectual properties, and they're willing to pay for it, but there's no way to accomplish that. And meanwhile, there's the big honking specter of piracy making it available right there. So we feel for you, man. And
I'm in that camp. I'm so frustrated. I'm into that, area of people in the U.S. who watch all these shows who they say are amazing and all of that. I want to pay for them. Just give me the shows. I'll pay for them and I'll watch them and I'll be happy.
And if it's sort of if it's a thing where like, well, we want to put the DVD out later and X, Y, and Z, there is a price that you can sell it for. That say, okay, fine. If you want to have early access to it, it's going to be $50 for the 3 episodes in the miniseries. Well, and that's one of the things and some people will pay that.
Right. That's one of those things where it's like they say when you do negotiations, the answer is never no. The answer is like, of course we can do that. It will just cost you blank. Right. Or you'll have to give up
the problem is here, of course, it's international rights, because they have to go to French TV first, and then they will be released because we already buy the DVDs from the US. We import them or buy them imported, so we already do that. What we would really like, and what happens sometimes with iTunes and some of the VOD channels, is to get them as they get out in the US, because they're available. They're a BitTorrent away. So yeah.
On the other side of the coin, the Brine from Los Angeles writes in that he hasn't been able to find one single torrent, cam, or screener for The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, the U.S. version that's now in theaters.
And he points out that the reason they're able to do this is because they have a proactive, there's no DRM. They're not worried about DRM type things. What they're doing is instead they're running an aggressive campaign of posting fake torrents, fake leaks, instant takedowns. They're just monitoring, and there's a way to prevent something from getting out there without necessarily having to screw it up for everyone who's a legitimate paying customer.
Yeah, he says it's an example of why we don't need stronger legislation. The fight against this stuff can be done using the tools that everyone has in common without changing the laws or changing anything. It's an interesting point. That's it for this edition of Frame Rate. Patrick Beja, thanks so much for staying up late and joining us tonight, man.
Thanks, you guys, for having me, and time is nothing to my Frenchness.
Wow.
I don't know.
Those are words to live by. And speaking of your Frenchness, let folks know not only about the Movielicious, but anything else you want to talk about of your many podcasts and where they can find you online.
Well, you'll find most of my stuff linked to from patrickbeja.com. And you know what? Just go to themovielicious.com, and the next episode is going to be out by the end of the week, so you can enjoy something current or the back catalog of shows, which is very, very enjoyable.
I'm looking forward to the triumphant return.
Thank you.
That's it for Frame Rate. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next time.
I'm looking forward to going to sleep.
Good night, Brian. Good night, Patrick.
Bye, guys.